Coming up on this program, we show you how to get connected. Find out how to choose an internet service provider. Discover the newest form of communication, electronic mail.
Ways down and ready to ride. One by one, billion by billion, and holding up half the sky. Raise your hand if you're ready and willing. If you know it's time. Time for a girl on time. Time for a girl on time. Time for a
This is early. I apologize for that, sort of. Not really. I've decided to not waste the last Saturday night of the summer as a 36-year-old lady. I mean, it's my last 36-year-old lady. It's not my birthday anytime soon. By the time next summer rolls around, I'll be a 37-year-old lady. And so I have plans tonight, and so I figured we would do this earlier rather than later. Thanks for being here. This is a continuation of last night's main show. So we watched the first. It is a bit sad. But actually, didn't end up as sad as it started. I'll say that. I'll do a quick recap here if you don't want to just go look at last night's. There's a brand new baby that's been born. The CPS is trying to remove the baby. Well, they have removed the baby. They are looking to, they're very concerned about mom's cognitive abilities. They are not going to say that they think she's basically mentally deficient, but that's what they mean. And they're worried about dad's anger problems. We didn't hear much from mom or dad last time. We did hear from grandma. And grandma, I mean, sounds loud. Basically, that is what I am, but not radio. I can be washed up from many different jobs, though. Many. Name one. I've probably had it. I didn't work for a radio station, but I did have a spot on TV for a little while on a local news station, so that's very close. Very close. Anyways, so let's get to it. Also, what else was I going to say? I can't remember. Oh, tell me what you had for your breakfast. I'm drinking coffee. Oh, did you ever have a paper route? I did want a paper route, Lisa, because I always wanted money. I always wanted money. And that seemed like what kids could do. But we never had I never had a paper route anyways. My first job was at a bank. It sounds crazy. I was 15 and I was a bank teller. But that's nepotism for you, because my boyfriend's dad was a vice president of the bank. So, bam. There we go. Anyways, hi Nigel. Let me just get this video going here.
Four, 121. Okay, so we're back on the record in this file. There was a removal last week, and we have the beginning of the preliminary hearing. We've adjourned to today to allow further investigation, because we learned that the grandmother was here locally, and I asked the department to do some more investigation into the household to look at that relative placement. So I'm looking forward to the updates. I did have a brief sidebar with the attorneys, in which essentially, in my opinion, seemed like it was a bit of a preview for the information that's going to be presented today, in the efforts made to answer the question that the court's already posed to the department. But if there's any additional comments, we'll look forward to those from the attorneys after appearances.
Good morning, Your Honor. Nicole Underwood, guardian ad litem for the minor child.
Ms. Saja Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Harvey?
Sarah Harvey, DHHS.
Michael Brooks, I represent the mother, Jacqueline Loomis.
Your name for the record, ma'am?
Jackie Lois.
Michael McFarland, representing father. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Dakota Herman Duckworth. I'm the father.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jones, do you need anybody to spell? No, I've got him. Good. Okay, thank you so much. All right, comments about the sidebar, beginning with Ms. Thomas?
I have no additional comments, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Underwood?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Gentlemen?
No.
I would say the court's comments are accurate.
Well, that doesn't seem fair. We weren't at the sidebar, Judge. You're going to need to elaborate a little bit on that. Don't start with me today, Judge. I'm not having it. Okay? I'm not in the mood. In fact, I need to find a Tylenol because I have a headache.
Thank you. All right, so Ms. Thomas, let's get to it then, in answering the questions about placement in the home of the parents, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll ask if that Ms. Harvey be sworn in.
Ms. Harvey, come on up for a witness stand.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Thomas, proceed at will.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey, at the last hearing, the court had asked the department to explore whether the maternal grandmother was an appropriate placement option for the child. At this time, what efforts have been made to make that determination?
Jill Heilman is the worker who has been working with the family on that topic. I do know that she has been to the home. She started the home assessment. She's met with grandma. They do need to meet again. I believe it's next Thursday to continue on that topic. Because grandma's residence is in Washington, it is going to take some time for the background checks and the things like that to come back.
Oh, they are fucking stalling, and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I don't like it one bit. This reminds me of why I had to stop watching CPS cases. I mean, I didn't have to. Honestly, I diverted myself and my attention into cases that we would play on the channel, but back in the day, I used to watch 6 or 7 hours of this a day, Judge Sims in Texas, and it was fucking infuriating. A lot of the time, I would find myself yelling at the screen, at the judge, or at the lawyers, you know. It's just difficult. It's difficult to hear these things. It's difficult when so much effort is put into not helping a family, but rather taking a baby away. They already spoke about adoption for the family that took the baby at the beginning of the fucking hearing, which I found inappropriate, but I understand why they do it. Yes, I took some Tylenol. I hope it helps. I doubt it will. Back in the day when I used to take a lot of gabapentin, I don't take gabapentin anymore, but I used to take gabapentin, and that just makes you not, it's literally a nerve medication. So when people would get on my nerves, gabapentin, no more nerves. But also very difficult drug to get off of, which I did, but not ideal. But I do miss it because I would be taking a few of those right now.
Because it's not as easy as if we were talking about someone residing in Michigan. But all of that is underway and actively being pursued.
At this time, the maternal grandmother still is staying with the parents. Is that accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, she has not secured any housing outside of the parents' home.
And there's a policy, I believe, that allows a child to be placed with a relative and the relative essentially to live with the parents. Would that be an appropriate situation for this family?
I do not believe it would be appropriate. There are some safety concerns surrounding some statements that Mr. Harmon Duckworth has said. in regards to the safety of his son um, and his mental health.
In order for the court to make those decisions, the court's record needs to reflect the facts that it's considering. And what, from your investigation or that you've learned through Jill's documentation in the department system, gives rise to such alarm? Like, what does it mean that there's safety concerns regarding his statements?
Okay. Mr. Harmon Duckworth has made statements that I have myself witnessed and statements that were sent to Ms. Heilman. Specifically to Ms. Heilman this week, all of it stems around the topic of marijuana use. He reports that he needs to be high in order for the people around him to be safe and for his son to be safe.
Well, I sort of agree with that because I am better off when I'm high. It's a bit of a joke, but it's not. And yes, they do still sell Tylenol with codeine over the counter in Canada. I've talked about that before. They call them Tylenol 2s. Like, Tylenol 3s are the ones that you can get from a doctor. Tylenol 2s contain caffeine, codeine, and acetaminophen. And then and you can get those just at the pharmacy. You just have to ask. And I've talked about this. Did we not talk? I think did I say it was $35 or $50 for a pack of them? I thought it was expensive, but you guys thought it was cheap. I usually travel with those because if you get a cough when you're traveling, like, codeine is a good cough suppressant. It really is. It's not good to take regularly. It'll mess up your whole system, but it is a good cough suppressant. If my volume's a little low, it's because I'm quiet. I don't have volume control anymore. Well, it's up as high as it goes until I get a new mic. We're working on that. But yeah, I like to travel with those because, I mean, they come in a container and you're allowed to do it. But yeah, Mike, old Mike, tell me about it. Mike, find me a new mic. Send me a link on Discord so that I can add it to my Amazon wish list. I want a wireless one that I can clip onto my boobs so that I can just have one, you know? I mean, to get Tylenol 3s, you need a prescription, but to get Tylenol 2s, you don't. You just go to the pharmacist and you ask them for it, Tylenol with codeine, and they will give you what you want. No questions asked.
Was the statement that was made this week. Previous to that, he has reported that he uses marijuana to calm himself so that people around him can be safe. We also speak to him about the fact that if he is the primary parenting person, he cannot be under the influence. If there's obviously going to be a time where someone else may not be the primary caregiver at that moment, he cannot be under the influence and be a caregiver in those moments. And he has openly said that people around him are not safe when he is not under the influence.
Okay, we've talked about this yesterday. We'll talk about it again. I am entirely capable of caring for a child when I am high as fuck. Sally, do you have two windows open? Because I shouldn't be echoing. But, it bothers me when people say that. Now, other mental health, untreated mental health issues, yes, that can be a problem. But, it's just not the same. It's just not the same when somebody smokes. Like, I disagree. Oh, it's okay, Sally. I just double checked. I was like, fuck. Sometimes my audio's off. And my boobs. Oh, you said the boobs in the valley. I get it. Oh, really? Nigel's informing us that in Ontario, you don't even need a prescription for T3s. Wow. That's amazing. That's pretty amazing. I mean, yeah. I'll tell you the best way to get medicine from a doctor, that you've already, like, prescription medication that you want, is basically to just be honest with them and say to them, you know, I shouldn't have, but a friend gave me one and I already tried it and it worked perfectly for what I need. And they have a really hard time debating that. Now, that's not always going to work for controlled medications, but for example, gabapentin, I said that and they were like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah, it worked perfectly. And I read a study about it and that's why I tried it and they gave me one. And they're like, okay. And then they just prescribe it. But you should probably follow like doctor's instructions, not Dr. Google like me. But I don't have a doctor. I wish I did. I wish I did. That's a problem in Canada.
Have you heard or witnessed any concerns regarding, in the petition, I believe that there were homicidal or suicidal ideations that were concerns. Does that remain a concern for the department at this time?
Yes, we've seen no remedy to that.
Have there been any instances in which he has appeared to have homicidal ideations?
There was one small concerning incident. I say small because it was short in time frame, with Miss Heilman in the home, where she felt unsafe as Mr. Duckworth was coming close to her carrying a knife. And she said, can I help you with something? Because he was coming closer into her personal space. He said, I'm carrying this knife in a safe way. If I wanted to hurt you, I would carry my knife like this. And then he did a slashing motion and held the knife up. That made the worker feel very unsafe in the moment. It also just goes to the topic of safety concerns inside the home with parents.
That's a little scary, but here's the thing. Let me describe that situation differently. These people showed up in our lives alleging that we're the worst people in the world. They don't even think I can fucking carry a knife from the living room to the kitchen or wherever without it being dangerous. And so I'm going to make a joke about that. Hey, this is how I'm carrying a knife safely. It's not a good idea, but I'm just explaining like how if you're in a bad space, like that can be a joke that's just taken the wrong way. And I get it that it's serious, but that is not a homicidal ideation. I'm sorry. That's not what that is. That's just not what that is. If he was really scaring her to the point of it being a slasher, like, why didn't she phone the police? Why didn't they have an immediate action taken? It's bothersome to me when they inflate or conflate these things. We have serious enough allegations, but that to me holds very little weight. Very little weight.
Were there any concerns about his use of kitchen knives in general or weapons?
Outside of that incident, he did just state that in the past he has carried with him a broken knife so that he couldn't use the knife on someone if he felt like he wanted to harm them. He also had a plastic knife so that he could use the plastic knife and he wouldn't harm someone with a knife if he had those two objects. There are concerns though that if he reports, if he is not using to a substantial amount, then there are safety concerns. There are obviously going to be knives in a home where steak knives, you use things to cut things. There are going to be knives in a home. It's unsure the safety of anyone in those moments.
Has a mother posed any safety threats to anyone at the department or herself or potentially the child?
No, there have been no firm safety concerns regarding mom, just parenting concerns.
Okay. And does it seem that the mother or the grandmother are able to mitigate any of those safety concerns posed by the father?
It is my understanding from my own experiences and from other workers' experiences that there's reason to believe that both Jackie and her mom can become fearful of Dakota in those moments. They both seem to kind of back away. I don't think that either one of them have the ability to stand firmly and stop him from actions.
Okay, I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to ask you to refrain from talking while the witness is talking.
Apologies.
If we need to take a break, that's fine. Just let me know, Mr. McFarland.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, could you repeat what you were saying?
We're concerned with both Jackie and Patty's ability to stand up.
I also really hate it. I really, really hate it when they are. This is exactly opposite of what Jackie said, or not Jackie. What Grandma said. Grandma never expressed concern about feeling fear with Dad around. She said that she thought he took care of Mom. Again, I'm bothered. I'm bothered by the assumption that grandmother cannot handle this. At least until this is looked into. I'm just, this is I don't know. I mean, these are criminal allegations. But they're not being held to a criminal standard because this is not a criminal court. And so if he was making all of these threats and such a danger, then call the fucking cops. I'm a little perplexed. Metal rules, hi. I'm perplexed and angry. My Tylenol hasn't kicked in yet, and it wasn't a Tylenol 3, so it's not even going to be that good.
To Dakota in those moments, as even workers have concerns about standing up to them in those moments, and we're trained to do so. So we feel that it would be a higher safety concern to have them in charge, so to speak, or directing him. Does not take redirection very well. It would be more of a trigger.
You noted that while mom may not pose safety concerns to the department personnel or anything like that, there are some parenting concerns. Have you been able to observe any parenting time between the parents and child?
Yes, there have been so far 2 parenting times, and then there's also one scheduled for today after our court hearing. I witnessed one parenting time. The foster care worker witnessed the other. During the parenting time that I witnessed, Jackie was caring towards her son. She would rock him in the corner, sing to him, but there is no base knowledge of changing baby's clothes.
She hasn't had the baby. You took it away. What do you want her to do? Practice on a fucking doll? That's not fair. Last week it was, oh, she doesn't even rock the baby. She doesn't even want to touch it when it's crying. And now she's actively, properly caring for this baby, and you're pissed because she's not playing dress up? That's not fair. I'm again, you're requiring too much. She has to learn. She has to be supported. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Do you know how devastating it would be for me as a mom if your baby got taken away and then the very little like that you are trying to learn and do, and they're wanting you to just continually do more, give more, give more, give more, give more, and but yet they're not giving you the baby back. Tough, absolutely tough. Do you know what's even crazier is that had these people just dropped off this baby, or I don't know though, when you go into birth at the hospital, does that sort of trigger something where you're now responsible? Like, do you have to birth a baby alone in order to give it to a baby box? I'm just thinking of all these things. And exactly, not everybody mothers well at first, and not everybody mothers the same. And you are also, again, this is traumatic for a child, but do you know how traumatic it would be as a mother who just gave birth, who didn't seem to know they were pregnant, and then had a baby? First of all, your breasts hurt. They would become over engorged. She would have to deal with that because she doesn't have a baby to feed. And on top of all of that, the natural act of breastfeeding tends to draw Pitocin, which helps your uterus contract. It also creates dopamine and bonding chemicals that you and the baby need. That's why breastfeeding is very important. I understand it's not for everybody, but it is very, very important. Nobody made a goddamn mention if they tried to help this woman breastfeed. Why would they just default to a bottle? It's frustrating. But as an aside, if you do have an occasion where your breasts are engorged and you're unable to feed your baby, or you need to reduce that engorgement, what you actually do is you'd use cabbage leaves. Yes, you heard me right. Cabbage, like green cabbage. If you get a green cabbage and you peel off one of the leaves and you place that in your bra on either side, it will reduce the engorgement a lot. So you actually have to be very careful. If you are planning on breastfeeding a baby, and like I would use this sparingly. In reality, you should feed your baby. That's what eventually reduces engorgement. But in the case that you've lost a baby, in the case that your baby was taken by Child Protective Services, in the case that there's just a reason that you aren't going to breastfeed, cabbage will literally reduce your milk supply incredibly, and very fast too.
Changing diapers, Dakota really takes over those tasks for her. She does make statements. An example is when the baby was wet, she said the blue line on the diaper means that it's wet. So she understands pieces, but to actually put those pieces all together to parent is still a major concern at this time.
And are there any safety concerns for the child even during parenting, or because it's supervised? So is supervision sufficient to safeguard this child from the lack of parenting abilities these parents are demonstrating?
With Jackie, yes. We do have concerns, obviously, for Dakota. Primarily, he's indicated that he needs the marijuana to parent, but we can't have him coming to parenting time under the influence. It's not appropriate. But during the parenting time that I was at, he brought out his marijuana pen to show the supervisor. This is what I use, this is what I do. He went into great detail about the use of gummies and how much he takes throughout the day, what it does, the use of alcohol to also treat his mental health. There are concerns that if we even started drug screening before, when redirected, again, he does not take redirection very well. He gets very angry and can get agitated. It's the safety, and we don't know what's going to happen when he's agitated.
Has he been able to demonstrate an ability to appropriately care for the child without supervision there?
Without supervision, no, we've seen nothing without supervision. At one point, he was, actually 2 points, he was, changing the baby's diaper and stepped away while leaving the baby on a table. He was redirected and told that that wasn't safe.
I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here. But recently I had to tell somebody that it wasn't safe to leave a baby of any age on a changing table by themselves. That person is fully with their faculties, okay? Everybody has to learn. You learn these things. If somebody was watching every moment that I had my baby when I had my baby, they would probably have a lot of problems with it. That's learning.
That he needed to be with him the whole time. Well, maybe 20 minutes later, he did it again. And when redirected, he said, I was just 2 feet away. He's fine. Those are major concerns, that you were directed once, even a few minutes later, you repeated the same process, and leaving a baby on the table is a safety concern.
At any point during his parenting time, were there other indications of his inability to care for the child, such as being unable to like self-regulate?
There was a great deal of emotional irregularity. He was able, one time he did become very agitated. He was asked if he'd like to take a walk, and he declined to be able to take a walk. He did sit, and after a few minutes, he became upset. He started to cry, and then immediately we went kind of back into hypervocalization, type of manic type behavior. So the emotions swing very quickly.
During parenting time, is the content of conversations focused on the child or around creating a bond with the child?
With Jackie, it is much more focused on the child and learning, creating a bond, things of that nature. Dakota is very sporadic in his conversations. They kind of go all over the place. We will be speaking about the baby and diaper changes or formula, and then a few minutes later we're speaking about court and the hearing, and we come back around to the hospital and the things that happened at the hospital. It is very all over the place. It's very difficult to follow.
During parenting time, if the child becomes dysregulated, what happens?
There were instances, this specific parenting time that I was in, we were informed that the baby does not at this time at placement take a binky, that it hasn't been needed, that he's been fairly calm. Dakota wanted to use a binky. They hadn't been sanitized yet, so we were unable to use the binkies that he had brought. It's not that they were incorrect, anything like that. They just hadn't been sanitized yet. And the baby was more agitated during that parenting time. He fussed quite a bit. There were good moments where they were both singing to him, things like that. But Dakota became fixated on the fact that he could not use the binky. And he wanted to feed him again, but it wasn't his feeding schedule. He had just eaten. He stated that,
Hey dipshit, let me explain something to you. Instead of telling him you can't use these binkies because they're not sanitized, why don't you explain to him how to sanitize them? You ostensibly have the ability to feed a baby, which means you have sanitized hot water. What you do is you fill a cup with some water that's hot and you pop the binky or the pacifier or the passy into, or actually we called it a dum-dum. And I think that might have been my mother's way of calling me dumb, but anyways. You want your dum-dum? Dum-dum? But seriously, that's all you do. You say, hey, that's a great idea. He doesn't normally take a binky, but we can absolutely try it. I wanted my daughter to take a passy, and she never did. She took my breast, only my breast. Fine, I get it, but seriously, the fact that she's now making a big deal about this again. How would we have de-escalated this? How would we have used it as a teaching moment? Oh, great. Thank you for bringing something for the baby. How you would go about sanitizing something like this if it ever dropped on the floor, was purchased brand new, came from a dirty bag, was gifted and somebody didn't know about it. This is how you can use that. Here, let's do it together. It's a fucking infant. Right now you're teaching the parents, okay? So you say, hey, if you need to sanitize a bottle or sanitize a binky for the baby, the best place and the safest place for a baby is on the floor, on a clean blanket, on the floor. Because why? They can't fall off. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our baby, we're gonna put him on the floor, make sure there's nothing around that could hurt the baby. We're gonna go ahead and get the water, sanitize the binky. Let's leave it in for 30 seconds, whatever. Google it. I don't know. Okay? And then remember, we have to keep an eye on the baby while we're sanitizing something like this. But we are okay because the baby's in a safe place on the floor, in a crib, in a bassinet. But again, you've just told me about a problem with that before. This sounds like a great teaching moment. Get your head out of your ass. They're only looking for problems. It's not acceptable.
The baby would be using the binky to control his anger.
What's a binky?
A pacifier, I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, a pacifier. That the baby would be using that to control his own anger, and so that he would not have temper tantrums.
In your opinion, is Mr. Harmon Duckworth appropriate with any of the service providers?
So far, no.
Triple H, there is some concern about the parents' ability to care for the child, but here is my point. What? Like, you're already there. You're already supervising. You're already doing it. Why is it so difficult for you to say, if this story went like this, he came in, he brought binkies, they weren't sanitized, we went to teach him how to sanitize them, and he refused, he freaked out, he lost it. That holds more weight with me. But the fact that you were like, oh, wow, you brought in unsanitized binkies for this baby? Thanks. Maybe we'll use it next time. Like, you can just imagine how that comes through to somebody. Do you know what he did? He went out and he got something that he thinks will soothe the baby. His baby. It's actually heartbreaking to me to hear about this, because what we have in front of us is not two people that are not trying. They're not addicted to drugs. He might be addicted to marijuana, but he's not. This is heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking to me, because all of these supports and resources need to be embraced for this family, because everybody here is going to be involved in any part of this system and become more expensive.
Is there anything else you'd like the court to know regarding potential placement with grandma while she's currently at the familial home?
While she's currently living with the parents, we do continue to feel that it wouldn't be an appropriate placement at this time. However, we're still working through the process. We're still doing the 3130A. We're continuing the entire process.
After the hearing last on the 21st, did you discover any information that might have been inconsistent with the grandmother's testimony?
Yes, I was able to speak to Social Security. We had really had that piece as to why Jackie received Social Security benefits. I was able to speak to them and discovered that Jackie is actually considered an adult disabled child, and that is what she received Social Security benefits for. She has a diagnosis through Social Security of intellectual disability. She's currently under review for that as well. The time frame on that is up. She, during the last review, which I believe was 2019, I believe is what I was told, Patty, Jackie's mom, had provided information to the SSI reviewer or evaluator. She had also provided school documents showing the special education or IEP that Jackie had at that time. So she's not receiving benefits, death benefits from her father. She is actually.
Bear with me right now. I have a feeling, and I felt it when Grandma was testifying. I think they're scamming Social Security. I think that was the actual scam. Was like, oh, we figured for her to keep getting this money, I don't know. Also, people that have intellectual disabilities can be parents. That's not in its own a reason to remove a child in America. Is it? I honestly, that's the vibe I got, is that they were trying to keep the money coming in. They figured out that they could claim a disability based on her IEP. She graduated, and we don't know the depth of this IEP. Okay? I find it a little bit, I don't know. My whole point is, like, I thought she was holding something back there, but it's pretty difficult to hide a true intellectual disability like that. I don't know. She sort of said that she had started school late and she was with mom all the time, like maybe an autistic vibe. But what bothers me here is, again, it is not illegal to be disabled and have a child. It is not illegal to be not good at parenting at the beginning. And then this, to me, is even more reason that they need to wrap around support this woman and her child. Now, him, fine. And I don't like it when they make people break up in CPS cases. But what I will say is that at the very least, then, there's an obligation on this court. I find it reprehensible that they would entertain the thought of just yanking this woman's child away and not providing any possible support. And again, Grandma shouldn't have lied, but maybe Grandma didn't. I actually got that different vibe. Anyways, the whole point is that I can already tell you where this is going. This baby's not coming back. This baby's never coming back to this family. If it's lucky, it will be adopted by the family that has it now. It will have a relatively stable upbringing because it has been placed in a foster to adopt home. But the heartbreak remains. And also, you've pushed them away from help. You've pushed them away. If I were them, and this happened to me, I would leave the state, I would go to a different place if I wanted to keep having a baby, and I would try and stay under the radar.
Receiving benefits under a disability for intellectual disability.
Did the Social Administration provide any of the information that Grandma Patty had provided during that 2019 review?
Patty stated that Jackie is not good with money, doesn't understand the concept of different dollars and coins, things like that. And she also provided the educational piece. At that time, there was also an evaluation done as to Jackie's IQ. All of this, Patty was participating in and was aware of. And at that time, that is when she was granted the payee status.
Does that information cause the department to have concern about her, Patty, Grandma, her ability to provide care for the infant?
Yeah, it goes to that thought of, can we identify, understand, and report accurately? If Patty didn't seem to understand why her daughter received Social Security, it's a concern then for many other things moving forward. Does Patty understand how this process works, what the rules are specifically for this process? Can she accurately report concerns that she sees? We've seen the.
Are you saying the grandma's intellectually disabled now too? She's not under the jurisdiction of this court.
Minimization of behaviors by her in regards to the safety of other people around Dakota, Jackie's intellectual capabilities. We've seen those things be misreported, and it causes a concern.
Thank you. With that, Your Honor, I have no further questions from Ms. Harvey.
Questions, Mr. McFarland?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
No.
Ms. Underwood?
Ms. Harvey, at this time, what would be your recommendation with respect to parenting time for both parents?
I would really like to see visits be suspended until we can get a psychological evaluation. They're just ongoing safety concerns. We can't have a parent presenting under the influence for parenting time, yet openly state that the only time people are safe is when he is under the influence. There are just too many safety barriers, psychological factors that I feel need to be explored before we can continue with supervised parenting.
Would Ms. Lomas be appropriate for supervised parenting time without Mr. Harmon Duckworth present?
I think that could be, I think that would be a possibility.
Thank you.
Oh, a possibility? Yeah, is that right? A possibility? Also, this is not a lawyer. This is a CPS worker. And I understand that they are overworked and they're underpaid and they're just extended beyond belief. But a fuck you, lady. Okay? You have a responsibility, and I know that there are some people that live in this chat that have a problem with reunification, but I am sorry. You have to default to that to begin with. This woman doesn't have a drug problem. This woman doesn't actually seem to have a housing problem. This woman seems to have an intellectual disability, and you want to suspend her visits? Again. Oh, I'm getting frustrated. This would be infuriating. This is infuriating to me. Do you know how much restraint it takes for them to sit in this courtroom and listen to this? I can't. I'm having outbursts.
I have no further questions.
Ms. Harvey, was the option of asking Dakota to step out of the home explored? And if that's, well, I guess the other question that is folded into that question is, would this child be safe if placed with mother and grandmother without Dakota in the home?
I would still have concerns as to whether they could actually, one, keep themselves safe from him if they had to redirect him, and two, keep the baby safe. And not because they didn't want to, but because they really truly are not capable of doing that. It becomes a concern. It just becomes a concern. If he does enter the home, are they able to, when told, no, you can't pick him up right now, he becomes agitated. Can they continue to stand up to him, to have, you know, the capability of being firm with him? That is a major concern.
Are there any instances that demonstrate to you that that would be or is already a consistent problem in the home?
Yes. Mr. Duckworth, Herman Duckworth, speaks for Jackie almost exclusively. She does not often do things out of her own accord. She does things after he tells her to. There was one instance where there was a provider on the phone. Jackie was attempting to speak to whom it was that had called her. He took the phone and was yelling at the person. So you see the coercive control in their relationship. Ms. Heilman also saw a bit of that in that she was having a great conversation with Patty alone when Dakota came home. He was already agitated. Grandma really shut down and really didn't want to answer specific questions. She felt very uncomfortable when he became agitated. It's a bit of a slump. Not the ability to stand up and say, no, you need to not do this. She can be firm. However, I don't think she can be firm enough to keep safety, maintain safety.
Do you know why Ms. Heilman wasn't able to complete her interview with Patty?
Yes, when the length of time, it was taking quite a bit of time. The parents had been at parenting time. They came home early. That Dakota coming home to that moment really did change the entire vibe of the situation. Patty didn't really feel comfortable answering questions while he was there. A lot of it just needed to be further explored. And so Jill set up a time separately again for just she and Patty to speak alone. So his presence really did hinder it, but it also is a long process. There are quite a few things, and sometimes when you've already sat through it for 2 hours, we need to just continue to explore it on a different day.
Do you know why Ms. Heilman's not able to be here today?
She's actually off today.
Okay. Has there been any information supplied about the family from their residence of origin, if you will, like where Patty has come from?
Yes, I have requested records. They have confirmed that there are some records and they'll be sending them, but they take up to 10 business days. I was able myself, just through a Google search, to find that Patty's other daughter has a significant CPS history, so the family does have history. There's a termination.
The sins of one sister go on to the other. You can get absolutely fucked. I mean, honestly, you want to dig deep enough? 6 degrees of separation. There's 6 degrees of separation from everybody. The fucking foster care parents have people in their lives, within whatever degree, that have had trouble. We all have. And I'm first of all, Google search? Bitch? You don't have a better fucking thing than that? Objection hearsay, objection relevance, objection speculation.
Of 3 children. And it does not appear that in that process, Patty was the placement for any, there were 6 children originally removed, 3 were given back to their mother, 3 were
I'm
put
going to
into
object.
adoption.
How in the dickens am I supposed to parse this information that the witness got off a computer that I can't read? I can't see it. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's false. It's not hearsay. It's beyond hearsay.
That's fair, Mr. Brooks. And I think that I'm sure I know I'll be asking follow-up questions at subsequent hearings as well, but I just want to really make sure that the department's done everything they can to find out what's happening with this family and to find out whether or not placement with grandmother could be an option. So I appreciate your objection, and I also.
Spoiler alert, Judge! Spoiler alert! She doesn't want to give the baby back, Judge. It was evident from the minute that they took it. And I want you to show me them working on getting the baby back to them. Not the opposite. Show me that. Impress me on that one. Oh, it's not coming? It's not forthcoming? Shocking.
Look at the information, giving it the weight that it deserves, which is obviously qualified by the source being Google. But I am also glad to hear, frankly, that the department is looking at what they can find out about the family, I suppose, in some respects. So you're welcome to cross-examine as well, obviously.
I can also let you know what led me, like where Google led me, because that is an important piece.
All
And
right.
actually, there was an appeal to the termination. So it was actually a court document that is in a juris website. So it is pretty accurate information.
Would you be able to?
It's so pretty accurate that my lawyer, the lawyer for CPS, who's a fucking lawyer, didn't manage to get the site. Get the case! I'm sorry. I'm sorry, ma'am. Just because you pull a fucking case off the internet doesn't mean it's real. Also, it doesn't mean you even come close to understanding the intricacies of that legal fucking case. The fact that there was an appeal filed on that, the fact that 3 children were returned to her and 3 children were taken, that's already screaming fucked to me.
Provide a copy of that
Yeah.
in the future.
Sure, good.
Thank you. All right, questions based on my questions, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
Yes, I'm trying to understand the importance of a link of mother's sister losing her parental rights. You haven't discovered anything in your documentation that says that maternal grandmother was an issue, correct?
No, what the discovery led to was that she was not a placement option for those children. That's primarily why it was.
But that has no
donated to us.
significance because you have no idea why. It could be not
Correct.
enough rooms,
We're-
it
yep,
could be
correct.
distance.
Yep, we're waiting for that information to come from Washington State, yes.
Fine.
I did want to dig further into why, yes.
Okay. Now, it appears as though you're concerned with father's parenting time being suspended as him being physically in the room with the child and inappropriate, correct?
Correct.
So another option would be for him to view the child on FaceTime by Zoom, so the child can hear his voice, can still form a bond, and not be a risk of harm, physical harm to the child. That would be an alternative, wouldn't it?
Yes, if the court felt that that was the alternative, that would be fine.
Nothing further.
Mr. Brooks?
Thank you. No.
Ms. Underwood?
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and your return receipt. All right, any other witnesses today, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
Well, Your Honor, when you advised my client of his rights on the record, he also indicated he had the right to make a statement. He would like to make a statement at this time. Would you like him to go from here, Your Honor?
I think it would be best to have him
Watch your
sworn
head.
and approach our witness stand.
Yeah. So,
Oh dear. Oh dear. I am going to say this is a little bit entrapping. I am very oppositionally defiant today. I'm just taking the opposite. I am. I'm just like, I am. Is he making a statement? Is he going under oath? Is he being questioned? Is he subject to cross-examination? If he sits in that fucking witness box, he's going to be subject to cross-examination. Right? Now, is he only subject to what he says? Like cross-examination on what he says? Or are they allowed to ask him anything on the first cross? And Commissioner, my garden grows inch by inch, row by row. That's a kid's song. I love inch by inch, row by row. Gonna watch this garden grow. All you need is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground.
Raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
There's a step here, be careful.
I have a whole lot to start. Who's gonna start this off with the first?
Hey, hang on. We have to do this in a special order, okay? Number one, you did have a copy of the petition and you remember the judge reading it to you, correct? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you also know that we have asked for a jury trial, correct? Is that a yes?
Yes.
They're recording everything, so they need to
Okay,
hear-
so I need to state yes.
Yes, exactly.
Apologies.
Okay, so a lot of what you might say is going to be for the trial, so we might not want to let everybody know ahead of time, but you have some important comments to make, you think, today, correct?
Yep.
And these comments are going to be where you think the worker maybe misrepresented what she was saying,
I
correct?
would like to actually show off, if I can, what happens on my mental states. I can show it at any point in time and what happens when I get angry.
Well, why don't you tell us then, because that's an
So
important.
the original thing, the reason why I was originally diagnosed with homicidal and suicidal bipolar was because my dad has it. It is a genetic thing. Why do you think I was also trying to keep his fits down in case he does have any anger issues? I was pre-prepping even for my own mental health. Why I had been mentioning the pacifier to the people. I had also had a breakdown in front of the actual caseworker because of Patty. I have been attempting to get this car done for about 2 weeks now.
Car?
The car that was actually court ordered by the thing. Have not truly had help, and every time that I do, I have to either fight with her to the point where I'm yelling and screaming throughout my house, which has been the last 4 days. You can even reference to my honey for that aspect. Just yesterday, I had to have a own talk about my own honey's medical expenses.
Well, hang on.
Oh, I'm gonna cry. That's so sad. He is, they just need help. They need help. It's so sad. If I was expecting him to get up and call her his honey, like he's not acting like this is him trying his absolute best. This is just absolutely sad. It's terrible. It's not good testimony for him. It's not going to be good for him. It is compelling to me as a person with a heart, unlike some of these people, that it is just incredibly sad.
It's just, when you were saying my honey, who are you referring
Honey
to?
used my girlfriend over in the side that is Jackie Lomas. I always use the term as my honey
Thank
or
you.
mine.
Okay,
Patty has a problem with me stating my because I go around my house just stating mine because it's how I understand what I can actually use. She doesn't understand that that is the case in
I
point.
understand. Okay,
So I have issues with that. And if you notice, this is what I was doing, showing that I was caring. I was taking my time. I was even giving the aspects. The only thing that I couldn't stop is I have a pathological need to swear at sometimes. So the worse I get, the more I swear. I stated that to them. And the only word that I was using in the court was F, the F word.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Appreciate you not using that.
Yep, that's the
Okay.
reason. Or effing, to repeat. Those were the only terminologies that I used in the actual visits. I've been repeatedly asked, but every time that I was also talking, it was also only about Patty.
Let's get back to the issue of visits. You want to be,
That was also the reason why I was so to repeat, I had also stated I was going in there on mental weed. If they had noticed at the start of my visit, when I was not having any issues, I was actually, being perfect, fine, cozy, doing everything that I needed.
and why was that? Do you
It's because I had taken my marijuana. I was not feeling joint pain, which is what it was prescribed for.
So you
I
have
was
a
even-
prescription for marijuana?
I was told by my doctor to self-medicate. That is why I've been doing it for the past 5 years.
Would you be willing to sign a release? So
I-
Child Protective Services will contact your doctor and verify that. Would you?
Yes,
okay?
I would be okay
Great.
with that. I actually had gotten, the only reason I'm even on SSI right now is because 5 years ago, I originally was trying to get my entire mental health checked because I wanted to make sure she was safe in my house, Jacqueline Lomas. Because I wasn't feeling comfortable with everybody micromanaging what I had to do. And even during those 5 years, I had Patty repeatedly come into my house and start cleaning my house without my say-so. And at that point, I had panic attacks at that point, so I had neglected.
As somebody who's had people come in and clean their house involuntarily because they were helping, it is incredibly violating. I'm also neurodivergent, so maybe I don't work the same way, but that is very, 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 very tough to handle. It's difficult. He sounds very self-aware. He is I thought he was medicating a mental health condition with weed, but he's using it for pain. So that's even, I mean, I understand that they don't always recommend, but now I have even more questions. And then, yeah, I don't know. I'm terribly sad about this. Terribly, terribly sad. But also, if he's not been diagnosed and it's just a person in his life that has had the same diagnosis, one does not equal the other. Just because even a parent or a direct blood relative has bipolar disorder doesn't mean that you yourself will. That's not a diagnosis. So where's his medical records?
Did my entire
Patty being whom?
Patty Lomas that is sitting back in the court right now.
Okay, that's your girlfriend's
Mother.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Which I have been having these repeated same issues with her money and having to actually help her with her own money every single time. We had even attempted to change her own physical standing.
Whose money are we talking about?
Jacqueline's Lomas money for her own safety so that she could be her own payee. The only reason that I even became the payee is because Jackie felt more comfortable with me being the payee.
You are a payee for?
I am not a payee anymore. She had taken the rights over. Patty Lomas, the mother, had taken the rights back after not even a single week of me having it.
Let me ask you on visitation. If the court determines that you can't personally be there with your child, Would you like to be there by FaceTime or Zoom so you can see the child and talk to the child so the child recognizes your voice?
Yes. Also, the reason why I had stated to the court, can I show it, is because I only have to say a single word and I have a seizure right then and there. That is my safety mechanism. When I get too angry, it's not the action I'm going to cut someone. That is the thought that crosses my mind. But in doing so, my first action is to physically shut down my body so that I have it. The weed acts as a stimulant. I'd even stated when I was using alcohol, the only time that I ever, and I stated this politely, ever used alcohol is when I cannot feel my legs to the point where moving. That is the only time. It is to help numb, increase blood flow, and to also increase my oxygen intake. So I'm not hyperventilating, having anxiety or aggression. And normally it takes about one a day just to keep me tipsy. And that is just cozy and at tipsy.
One what?
One Smirnoff, you know, the red, white, and blues?
No.
Okay.
Is that a bottle you're talking about?
Yes,
So-
it's a literal 16 ounce.
Is that
And I would
vodka?
only have one of those if I was even.
Yeah, I'm not, what is Smirnoff? Is that vodka?
Okay, Smirnoff is normally a combination of a usual cocktail drink. It is usually involving a high fruity.
It's like a seltzer.
Yeah, it's like
Oh,
a seltzer
okay.
base.
So it's not straight.
It's not even straight vodka.
Okay,
I'm
got it.
even taking minor doses for that, and I have even stated that to everyone that I
The
have.
doctor okay with that too?
That is the only thing that I have not talked with, but to repeat, I was also told to self-medicate.
Now, you've heard at least it raised that maybe you might consider moving out of the house for the child to be with your girlfriend and her mother. Your thoughts?
If I had to, the majority of my anger issues that have repeated for the last 2 weeks have only been regarding to Patty Lomas. The majority of it has been stating that same thing repeatedly to the court.
The question is,
Yes, I realize what the question is. I'm understanding the anger aspect too.
okay, I think the court heard that.
Yep.
Of course, we're gonna have our day in court on
Yeah,
the
this is the
decision.
reason why I wanted to double check everything. The first thing, the only thing that I can agree with was for on court record to actually agree with the majority of what this petition has stated, including my own mental health and the aspects that I have is that my house was not unlivable, quote unquote.
Oh, hang on, we'll get to that when it comes to the trial, okay?
Apologies.
Oh, no problem. Have we covered those important decisions regarding parenting time?
My issues right now is I would actually request as a court hearing to have Patty actually move out of my house. I need her out of my house so fast. Last night, it proved to me that I had more anger issues because she was been here, because a lot of my bills and stuff revolve around 2 checks, not just one.
Some people might say that they're concerned for her physical health. with these
Actually,
things.
the only reason that is the case is because she would not she continuously went even behind Jackie's back, called up a doctor on thing after we had been repeatedly asking her to only wait an hour when we had already called a doctor to get Jackie's prescriptions fixed. We had to go to the ER because Patty Lomas had panicked to the point of thinking she had syphilis, which did not have any case in point. So it's or syphilis, whatever you want to be equate.
Okay.
And then after that, we had gone to the doctor. Even the doctor was telling her she was fine in the hospital right over, didn't even give time for it, and had already pushed that aspect. I usually do the majority of my girlfriend's pills, or.
Well, we're not on to those little
Okay.
things. We're just here about, I'd like to focus on the parenting time. Have we discussed everything?
Was that a Freudian slip and he's admitting that he does most of the pills as in they go to him? But I think what he means to say is that he's organizing the pills for her. Just because people are difficult, we can't turn our backs on them. Just because people are off-putting doesn't mean that they're less deserving of care and compassion. And it's not always acknowledged, but it is absolutely true that men deal with postpartum issues in different ways. And again, we need to surround people with care as much as possible. He is not helping. I don't know why he's on the stand right now. Ugh. I really hope one of them doesn't try and egg him on and fucking set him off later on cross-examination. If that happens, I'm gonna be fucking disappointed. It would be easy, but it shouldn't be.
Thing that you want to.
Yes,
on
for
that.
parenting time, yes. So if it is necessary for me to not be involved in those, as the case. Also, hold on, for parenting time, I had stated multiple times on the aspect of just light minor reminders for Honey, because I know she forgets at times. She gets panicked and then has her issue, which is she just overly nitpicks at certain aspects, just like I do.
What triggers you?
So I have three different things. One, if you are not, when I have already specifically asked you of a task, the only task that I have actually asked of Patty to even come down here and has specifically stated to her not to come down here if she was sick, which when she had found out that the actual.
Oh, we understand that. What's the second?
Yep, apologies, I had a whole bunch of things lined up, and this is just the first of the things. Very many.
What's the second trigger?
The second trigger, like I have stated, if I actually stated, I actually will have it to you. I can't state it on record because I had a issue when I was younger with a past ex, why I have so many tendencies. I've been lied for 2 years.
What's the third then, if you can't mention the second?
So the third one, I honestly have issues with cleaning my house because my body does not work normally at certain times, which means that's why I'm taking the marijuana.
Okay. Let me ask you this. If the court were to order you out of your house, I have no idea what the court's gonna do. Okay.
Yep.
But if the court were to order you out,
I would not have a place to stay. I would specifically ask for Patty to be moved out.
but
Specifically,
if the court ordered you out, would you be out?
I would have to be out if that was the case.
I don't know what the court's gonna do, so I'm just asking every scenario. You understand?
Yep. And if you notice, this is without weed. This is why I am showing this to the court. This is without any docile nature.
So this is your worst case scenario.
This
what
is
we're
my
saying.
worst case scenario. This is why I came here specifically to show the court what was actually happening.
Okay.
Also, when that knife was even mentioned, I had the back of the blade hidden like this so that I wouldn't actually hit my foot, or to actually, knife etiquette states that you hold the blade to the back of your wrist to make sure that anyone that is in any state or actual has issues has to hold it correctly this way. I had even stated it and showed it to her and had shown her the issue of if someone is in a threatening motion. I had even shown her the issue when a blade is actually raised out and held down to the side. That is normally an action of aggression. Well, the way that I was holding it was an action that I didn't even want to get near you. There was a box behind her for the car seat, which is why I had grabbed a knife. I hadn't stated anything, had just taken my weed and went over and was on my task and doing stuff around my house.
So basically, you're not aggressive when you have your weed.
When I have my weed, I am very docile to the point that if it's the case, the only time that I am not docile when is there a problem.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I'll see if any other attorneys have questions for you, okay?
Yes, please.
Ms. Thomas.
Thank you. Mr. Hammond Duckworth, when was the last time that you used marijuana?
Literally just yesterday. I specifically had taken a 200 milligram and a single hit yesterday to guarantee that I would be safe and happy and healthy for everything, including if I was having a panic attack. So I calmed down multiple times during the actual issue yesterday.
Okay. And what is your child's name?
Silas Lomas, Syelus.
Okay. And do you think that you're appropriate during parenting time? Do you think that you pose a risk of harm to him?
Honestly, yes. I was actually explaining to an actual social worker what my issues that I have been dealing with and that is also including the car aspect that I've repeatedly kept having to say to Patty Lomas almost every single day, which has caused her not to feel safe in my house like she has recommended. And I have only asked
Mr. Hammond, Duckworth,
repeatedly.
I'm just gonna
Sorry.
re-ask my question. Do you feel that you are safe to your son during parenting time?
Oh, yes. Actually, I was more safe than what I was realizing. The only 2 times I was actually going and.
Your Honor, I'm just gonna say my client has answered. She asked if we felt safe.
Okay,
He said
sorry.
yes. So
Apologies, I don't know how much you
Mr.
want.
McFarland, if he wants to continue answering the question, I can appreciate your concern on his behalf, but if he wants to explain that, I think as far as it relates to parenting time, it's very relevant, and I would like him to be able to do that.
Thank you.
So the first parenting time, the reason why I had come in so distraught for the second one was because the first one I had found out the Infamil that they were serving him, and not even taking my response of saying that Similac was supposed to be given to the child. Specifically, I had brought an entire case of a 40-pack of bottles of Similac to my first hearing. That was to make sure that I had everything. I had even washed bottles specifically that were already stated for that. And I'm still having that used against me in court, which is another reason why I feel like I have to state this. And I realize I am overstepping my bounds, and my attorney has already told me to stop. But I feel like I have to say this, because if I don't, it's gonna eat away at me for next week. I'm trying to repeat.
Oh, he knows the brand. I am getting Spectrum vibes here too. 40-pack of formula is very expensive, by the way. If I wasn't sad already today, here we go. If you're just getting here, welcome to the Cry Train, where Paisley watches things that make her cry because she's used to negative emotions instead of positive ones. Or at least that's what the therapist says.
Majority of this petition, I could state that half of this is wrong, including the even aspect of me actually going in multiple times to check my own girlfriend to get her health. This is why I stated that I wanted to be last time here.
Okay.
The majority of this petition was wrong.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks?
Sir, are you having a panic attack right now?
Because so the other reason why I have these issues is I remember everything. That means every aspect, every even issue. I normally just start crying. And then I get worse and worse. And then I snap, which at that time it takes, the last time that me and my honey originally had an argument, it lasted over 5 hours. And that was me asking if she's okay, or if there's anything that I can do for her. Sometimes she doesn't even understand her own body, which is why we go through the health mechanisms that we normally do. You know what doctors do. Are you experiencing 0 from 10 pain? We go through that thing. And if she's experiencing any pain that is over the 6th limit, I normally call an ER visit to guarantee that everything is happy, healthy, and safe in my house. And that even includes if I feel if I'm being too aggressive. Sometimes that is even to the case of that point. If I'm being too aggressive, I will make sure that she is actually getting her mental health checked at the hospital, and we will take a night at that time.
Sir, my question was, right now at 10 minutes to 12 today, are you having a panic?
So right now would be equating to a panic attack. This is my minor first stage. My second stage is usually I need stuff done. It is no other option. Patty has pushed me to the point where I've had no fucking point in to use my second stage normally. And that has happened at least 6 times this week. And it has been over her own daughter's health. I literally had an argument yesterday about making a bed. And all it was moved was 2 inches.
I have no further questions, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Underwood, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Judge.
Any redirect, Mr. McFarland?
No, thank you.
Recross?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony. You may return.
Thank
to your
you.
seat. Any other witnesses, Mr. McFarland?
No, thank you. Watch your head, please.
Mr. Brooks?
I'm finding out right now. Do you want to go on the stand or no?
If you want me to.
Well, you just tell me if you showed me all that stuff and I'm just wondering if you want to tell the court about that.
You can do whatever you want. It's not me. Do not look for, if you notice, that's also a care method that we use. Sorry.
Sure.
You don't sound sure.
I'm not sure.
No, we do not have anything to say.
Any witnesses you'd like me to hear from, Ms. Underwood?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Well. All right. More comments or closing, Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, we would just ask the court to make the findings that reasonable, if actually active efforts have been made for this family to continue to assist in the reunification process and to help the family, I guess, with placement, have the most family-like placement for this child. It does not seem that that is an appropriate placement. We are asking the court to continue placement with the department and allowing the child to remain in the licensed foster care home. Based on the testimony we've heard today, there seems to be a clear concern about the safety and well-being of all of the adults in this matter, which would clearly imply a substantial and imminent risk of harm to the child. We are asking the court to suspend parenting time as relates to father, pending further psychological evaluation to understand how he could possibly interact with his child in a safe manner. I think that his behavior also poses a substantial risk of harm to the service providers that are involved in assisting this family. And I believe that that is unreasonable to ask them to continue to place themselves at such risks where there have to be safety plans to the extent that they are implemented right now. We are asking the court to continue. And also as it relates to Mr. McFarland's insinuating that perhaps online or video call parenting time could happen. I would also like to point the court back to the testimony of, and even father's own testimony, of the inappropriate language use, the scattered dialogue, and the inability to really focus on the child in and of himself. And for those reasons, we are just requesting a full out suspension of parenting time. As relates to mother, we would request continued supervised parenting time as policy requires. And with that, we would ask the court to continue the authorization of the petition pending the trials. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
Your Honor, I don't recall there being any testimony that my client spoke inappropriately to the minor child, raised his voice to the minor child, threatened the minor child. So I don't know how we can extrapolate that by him doing a remote contact by Zoom, which no worker should be involved in, which could be immediately shut off from the other side, why the child couldn't hear his voice. It appears as though he's demonstrated appropriate vocal conduct in front of the child. So that's what we're asking, and we're still requesting the jury trial.
Mr. Brooks?
I can see, listening to this man testify, how the caseworkers could either A, confuse, or B, deliberately distort what they perceive as his threat. He knows he has issues mentally. How often are we in here and people don't even acknowledge they have them? It's every week, and they don't know that there are issues. He knows. he does. Maybe it's not the politically correct thing to do, but he knows how to mitigate those issues so that he can be more appropriate. Now, I don't know what this diagnosis said about him being homicidal or suicide. We haven't seen it.
That's why I
But,
was.
no, don't help me.
No, you're good, sponsors.
Thank you. But he knows, he is aware, he wants to control it. He is controlling it. You don't approve of it, maybe the workers don't work, but it works. Self-medication in this case has an ameliorating effect on his behavior. Now, with respect to mom, I don't hear anybody saying she can't go to visitation. I don't see any reason why he can't go. I mean, if push comes to shove, they can always terminate the visitations. But I don't think he's expressed, I think he's been very candid with us. I didn't hear him say he was ever feeling like he had threatening motivations.
I'll address that, Tin Man, because there's two reasons I'll address that. Firstly, I've received emails from people that were horrified that I covered their case, begging me to take them down. Those people, I refuse to take those cases down. Sorry, not good enough. Your embarrassing conduct during a court case that resulted in me roasting you isn't really my problem. And the fact that your children, first of all, I already have a policy. We've talked about this policy before, but for anybody new here, my personal policy and how I ethically post these videos and do these lives is that you'll never ever in a title or description from me find somebody's name. I don't use participants' names, and that way it's not searchable in that case. These are interesting to law nerds and in some people, but I'm not there to be the reason that somebody looks up their aunt or uncle or brother or sister or ex-spouse and sees their hearing. If they come to it naturally, that's it. But I'm not the way to redirect to that. So that's how I personally find a balance with posting these hearings and reacting to them. But what I personally would hope in this case, if they were to ever watch this, is that they would appreciate the compassion that I showed them, and that I advocated for them. I did more than some people. Their lawyers are doing a good job, but I would just, they shouldn't be embarrassed about this. Nobody here is acting embarrassing, in my opinion, on their side. This is a serious discussion about things, but I think that, we've covered absolutely embarrassing court cases before. You can find them on the channel. Lots of them. But this isn't one of them. This is very serious, but everybody here has been very respectful. He's been sitting, waiting, biding his time. He spoke. I think, I'm not a professional, obviously, but I would assume he's on the spectrum in some sense. And I would ask, where's his family support? Does he have any, or did they talk about him going through the system? Anyways, the whole point is that I hope that if they ever were to watch this, and I don't feel this all the time, because I've done cases where I thought to myself, oh my, if the person watches this, they might be upset about, how I react. Because I make fun of people all the time, Sally, but not in this case. This is not where that's needed, comic relief, in a way, is what we have here some nights, but this isn't one of those cases. But what I would say is that, for example, Birdie's mom, that case back on the first channel, that was literally we watched 30 hours plus of that court case. And I personally got told that I was way over the top, out of control while filming that by my roommate. He was like, that was annoying. Like, he told me it was annoying. I remember being very triggered by those hearings. That woman reminded me a lot of my mother, and in so many ways, and I just like went off on it. That's the one I will say I went a little nuts, but I still left it up. But you know, for the most part, I just try and think and put yourself in other people's shoes, you know? Right, Mike? Yes. And that one I did like a little, I acted out all the things, you know what I mean? They had all those meetings at the beer place and all of these different situations that I acted out. That was funny. Okay, let's just keep watching. We're almost done. Then I'm done for the night.
Towards a caseworker, threatening motivations towards a supervisor for visitations, none of it. And he went on quite a bit of detail about his status and where he's at emotionally. No, I don't see it. I just see he's different. I think he knows he's different, but that doesn't mean he can't visit with his child. And I'm opposed to any kind of limitation short of this. I agree with the need for supervision. I agree with that. But that's as far as I'm willing to go. Other than that, I don't see what the issue is. If it gets worse, I mean, we all know it. The DHS has got the ability instantaneously to terminate visitation and to ask this court to continue the termination. Have they said he harmed the child? No. Have they said he's a little is he negligent about that? The tabletop thing is a bad thing. You can't do it.
Yep.
But he learns, he listens. No, he should be allowed, my client should be allowed supervised visitation with their child. As for bad language in front of the child, come on. How old's this child? A week old, 2 weeks old?
They were even stating, sorry.
All right. That's just ludicrous. That child hasn't got a clue on earth what's being said. I don't know if even a child can hear well at the age he's at. Probably not. But no, he's too easy a target. But none of it points to him being a threat to anybody. I suspect if he was a threat, he is aware enough, he would know he's escalating. And he'd go outside, he'd take some marijuana, and okay, nobody likes it, too bad. But he's not threatening anybody, and he should be allowed to visit with his child. Thank you.
Ms. Underwood.
Sorry, that was more about.
Your Honor, I am more in line with Ms. Thomas and her recommendations. And after hearing testimony from Mr. Harmon Duckworth, I am absolutely concerned with the safety of the workers and the caregivers. He indicated and displayed that he did carry a knife around, and while his explanation may seem appropriate to him or to others, why in the world would you display how to carry a knife and what you would do with it if you're going to be threatening to a caseworker? That would be very concerning, and I would myself have felt very unsafe in that circumstance. As for his behavior at the visits, I also agree that that's inappropriate, and his parenting time should be suspended. He testified that he has to be high or tipsy, I think he said, in order to be calm. Yet if you're high and tipsy, yes, you're calm, but then no, you can't parent your child. So it's a vicious cycle. I agree that a psychological evaluation needs to occur, and hopefully we can make some headway on appropriate treatment for Mr. Harmon Duckworth so that he can have parenting time with his child in the future. However, I believe that the other attorneys with except for Ms. Thomas are minimizing the behaviors that have been testified to by Ms. Harvey and by Mr. Harmon Duckworth himself. I disagree that he knows his limits. Clearly we're here for a reason, and he's even testified that he can't keep the home clean, which is one of the reasons why the petition was even filed. So I believe that there is significant safety concerns both for the minor child as well as the caseworkers, as well as Ms. Lomas and her mother. And so for those reasons, I believe that placement with the department is still appropriate for the minor child. I would recommend that all parenting time for dad be suspended pending further investigation and further psych evals, and that parenting time for the mom be supervised without Mr. Harmon Duckworth present. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the court finds that all interested parties were given notice for purposes of the continuation of today's preliminary hearing. I do want to confirm that I think that the reasons for the removal continue to be they continue to create a reasonable risk of, or an unreasonable risk of harm associated with allowing Sileas to be in the care of either parent at this time. We've heard Mr. Dakota Harmon Duckworth confirm himself that he has some pretty significant diagnoses and some very some triggers that put him on edge on a regular basis, that he self-medicates with very high levels of marijuana in order to try to control some of those impulses that he has, and even when he is self-medicated, that he has some trouble controlling those impulses. That was demonstrated by his actions around Ms. Jill Harmon during the time that she was at the home. And again, Dakota himself confirmed that he did bring a knife into the room where she was at, demonstrated that he was using it in a safe and knew how to use it in an unsafe way. None of that is appropriate or necessary during a visit. There's no reason at all that there should be a knife brought into the room while a CPS person is there for any other reason other than to intimidate that particular worker. He's admitted to us that he has triggers as when he has to ask someone to do something more than one time, that his mother-in-law has taken him to what he referred to as, I think, level 2 over 6 times in the last week, including at one point over the fact that she had made a bed and moved it several inches over. We have the indications that Jill Heilman was in the process of interviewing the mother, the grandmother, and that the grandmother shut down and was unable to complete the interview because when Dakota arrived back at the home, she stopped talking. So there are a lot of indications that the home where these two parents are residing is not safe. And I would go as far as to say that it may not be safe for the grandmother and the mother at this time. And I think Dakota Harmon Duckworth is doing the best he can under the circumstances with this diagnosis to mitigate these risks. And I'm hoping that voluntary or involuntarily, he's able to access some additional services through the department to help control some of those impulses and alleviate the risk of harm associated with his diagnosis that he shared with us today. In the meantime, I will ask the department to look at those potential resources for him, to look at a psychological evaluation for him. I know that there are some good resources over at Adrian Psychiatric and Counseling, and you have your own resources as well, but we need obviously someone who is capable of looking at Mr. Harmon Duckworth's psychology and psychiatry needs, and look at how we can help support him to be safe around himself and the people he cares about. He's able to do that voluntarily prior to pretrial and trial, of course, and we'll ask him to do that in order to make sure that he's safe during parenting time. In the meantime, I will allow him to have the virtual parenting time. I think that's a good suggestion by Mr. McFarland, and we'll ask the department to do a family team meeting to arrange some time where he's able to do some virtual parenting time with his child, virtual supervised parenting time, pending pretrial and trial, and I'll look for an update on that time at pretrial. I will also allow Ms. Jacqueline Lomas to exercise supervised parenting time. That will have to be done at the department, and arrangements made also during an FDM, and if that's going to be outside the department, to ensure that Mr. Dakota is able to not be part of that particular time. And there will be obviously some need to plan around that in order to make sure that he's able to be supported in curbing his impulses if he has frustrations around that point. So I won't be asking our service providers to do that in a vacuum. I'll ask you to try to arrange that parenting time either at the department or in a public place so that you have the resources you need to keep the situation safe and civil for everyone. All right, so that's what's going to be happening with parenting time moving forward. I'll ask the department to continue to investigate the maternal grandmother replacement as they have indicated they will. To continue that home investigation, to submit the results of any BIA inquiry, to supply that AOP or any other proof of legal parentage. That's something we have to tie up before we come back and proceed further as it relates to adjudication. Our final pretrial will be September 16th at 11 a.m. Jury instructions, voir dire questions, and jury verdict forms are due at or before that final pretrial. Witness and exhibit list should also be filed and exchanged prior to or at that pretrial. Of course, it includes marking your potential exhibits and exchanging those between parties so that everyone can be prepared for jury trial.
You're telling me they're not even working a case plan? You guys, the baby's safe, okay? The baby's not moving from the foster parents. Now my concern is what's in front of us. And the fact that they're moving to trial, the final pretrial, September 16th, with no fucking service plan to work? Are they just going direct to termination? Is that allowed? If these people turn out to be disabled, is that a violation of the ADA?
Which will be conducted on October 11th, 2024, commencing at 8:30 in the morning.
Your Honor, if
Yes.
I might, I plan to be out on October 11th. And that Monday following, so I'll be back to Tuesday following the 11th. Be back on the 15th.
And I know it takes
All right,
time.
would
Judge,
you be able
wait.
to-
The problem is Cellulite Yoga Pants. They're having a fucking jury trial. It is unacceptable to me. The cases in Texas work differently. They run through the court differently. There's time before they, I mean, I think it's a year. They have a year. And they give this ominous warning at the end of all the hearings. To the mother and the father, I need to tell you that your parental rights are subject to further restriction or termination if you cannot or will not provide your child with a safe and stable environment, blah, de, blah, de, blah. And it was always such a kick in the face because it's like they already took the kids. They already know, but they are legally mandated to say it at every single hearing. You know, one time that went through on appeal, and then they were like, fuck, we gotta say it every fucking time now.
To support Wednesday, October 16th. I have Wednesday or I have Friday, actually. The 18th.
October, correct, Your Honor?
October 16th or October 18th.
Either for me. Just double check to make sure I don't have anything in another.
We can actually even go Monday, October 21st, if that works better for everybody.
Fine by me.
16th is fine, 18th is fine, 21st is fine.
Your Honor, because it's a jury trial, I think I'd rather have it on a Monday in case we have to carry over another day. That may be more appropriate.
We have Well, if we did the 16th, we could carry it over to the 17th.
That's fine too. So that's just my concern. I don't want to break for a weekend.
Let's go with Wednesday, October 16th, understanding that if we do need to ask the jury to rejoin us Thursday morning, then obviously we'd be open for business. So for continuity, I appreciate that, Mr. McFarland. I agree that we should be able to have some time where it still remains fresh for everyone. So let's schedule it for October 16th. Again, commencing at 8:30. And I'll make changes on my calendar accordingly. And look for those updates as articulated previously at our pre-trial.
Judge, I'm sorry, when was the pretrial again?
September 16th at 11 a.m.
Thank you.
What's that pre-trial date again? Pre-trial one more time, September 16th at 11 a.m. Jury trial, October 16th at 8:30. I've issued my findings as it relates to placement. I think that the child is in the safest and least restrictive circumstances pending further developments and the homework list that I've given the department. And unless there's any questions, that's all for today.
Should my client wait out in the hall for the order for the times?
Sure.
Sure, that's it, that's all, folks. That's it, that's all she wrote. I love putting myself in such a bad mood. Hi, Chris. You're just here in time for us to say goodbye. But I got your gift. Thank you so much. We talked about the ourson, petit ourson yesterday. The Teddy Grahams and the coffee. Thank you so much. You're so sweet. Anyways, yeah, tomorrow is going to be members only and Court Watchers Anonymous. It'll also be earlier because I have the football pool tomorrow night. So I hope that you guys will make sure notifications are turned on so that you will know when we're going. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Also, that case just happened on Friday. This is as up to date as we get. We'll wait till next time, but nothing else has happened. This is it's pretty much at the moment. Remember, I love you, I'm proud of you, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.
Ways down red.